The CEO's voice cracked like brittle glass, slicing through clinking silverware and self-congratulation. To the pioneers behind our energy breakthrough. Applause erupted on cue, an obedient symphony of champagne flutes, marble acoustics, and forced laughter. Alina Martinez didn't join in. She sat still, spine rigid, smile practiced, fingers curled around a flute of overpriced effervescence she hadn't asked for. The bubbles bit her tongue like betrayal. She scanned the banquet hall, the floors polished enough to reflect hypocrisy, orchids dangling from the chandeliers like some botanical bribe. Every corner whispered opulence, plates worth more than her first car, wine flown in from the south of France, compliments imported from LinkedIn and drenched in insincerity. But through it all, her name remained conspicuously absent: lead engineer, architect of the converter. The only one who'd bled through 3 fiscal quarters and a lab explosion. Yet the spotlight orbited everyone but her. Not a whisper of gratitude. Not a single syllable. She wasn't overlooked. She was systematically omitted. The CEO grinned like a man who believed his smile could spin futures. And with this momentum, we'll reinvest earnings straight into development. That does mean deferring some performance bonuses until Q3, but hey, synergy today, success tomorrow. The room chuckled on command. Alina's chest didn't rise. Deferred. The word echoed. Like a slap across her hours. 3 years of missed holidays. A torn rotator cuff from a test rig mishap. Weeks spent sleeping beneath her desk wrapped in lab coats. And now, deferred, she looked around, searching for one honest glance. Her manager busied himself with breadsticks. The CTO avoided her like accountability was contagious. Even the intern who used to stammer compliments now perched on stage, high on proximity to power. This wasn't negligence. It was erasure. By the time the creme brulee arrived, her mask had fused into place. She laughed on cue, nodded at jargon, even raised her glass to the company's global expansion like she hadn't just been pushed off the patent cliff. But behind her eyes, equations calculated leverage. This wasn't the end. This was data collection. The Uber ride home offered no reprieve. Still in heels, her cocktail dress creasing beneath her seatbelt, Alina opened the company dashboard. Patent registry, scrubbed. Her name, a ghost. She blinked. No entry under contributors. No mention in revision logs. The last email had listed her as lead engineer. Now it was like she never existed. The skyline outside shimmered with capitalist delusion, but Alina stared past it, reflection calm, composed. Inside, neurons rewired. She wasn't going to storm out or threaten lawsuits on Twitter. She would absorb, observe, dismantle. Come Monday, the office buzzed with backpatting and reply all emojis. The newsletter headline, Team Triumph. Inbox flooded. Congratulatory subject lines. But not a single message addressed her directly. Not a single, nice job, Alina. Just static. Generic noise that excluded her like a censored footnote in a company memoir. She scrolled to the employee dashboard. Still no listing. No inventorship. No footnote. Not even reviewed by. Git commits? Denied. Access revoked. The devlogs she built, the ones she bled into, now locked behind clearance she no longer had. Names glared back at her like graffiti on a mausoleum. Ethan Park. Jason Lai. Claire Donovan. A marketing intern, a supply chain analyst, and a junior hire who once asked if volts and amps were the same. They hadn't touched the prototype. But now they wore it like borrowed armor. Alina inhaled slowly, pushing her palms flat against the desk. Her heart thudded like a metronome for mutiny. She clicked through archive logs, version histories. Blank. Like someone had power washed her fingerprints from the blueprints. Find.HR's pastel walls smelled like artificial lavender and plausible deniability. Stephanie, the resident gatekeeper of empathy theater, looked up with her signature, I care professionally, expression. Alina's voice was velvet over razors. Quick question. Why am I no longer listed on the Helios converter patent? Stephanie. Blinked like a malfunctioning chatbot. Oh, were you supposed to be? I authored the core firmware spec. Filed the disclosure. Was copied on every legal thread until last month. Stephanie tilted her head. That might be a clerical issue. Legal swamped. I can open a ticket. I don't need bureaucracy, Alina replied, voice slicing through the floral diffuser haze. I need documentation. Stephanie's smile stiffened into HR policy mode. We don't usually share internal memos without management clearance. I'll follow up. Alina didn't argue. Didn't blink. Just nodded once and left, each step whispering, noted. That afternoon, the company newsletter dropped like a dagger. Front page, young visionary leads clean energy shift. And there he was, Ethan Park, in a blazer that didn't fit, grinning beside the machine Alina had soldered together the night before the product demo. The article was a love letter to mediocrity in a tie. His vision. His guidance. His breakthrough. Her work, whitewashed beneath startup jargon and buzzword vomit, she scrolled faster. Hoping, maybe, her name was buried somewhere. In fine print. But there it was. Inventor of record, Ethan Park. No mention of collaboration. No credits shared. Just one name. One lie. One insult too many. Alina stayed after hours. Everyone else left to toast their stolen victory. She remained, cocooned in the dim glow of dual monitors, headphones off, browser tabs blooming like blueprints. Of revenge. Her old dev folders, still local, still hers, lit up the screen. Schematics etched in her shorthand. Margins filled with profanity-laced notes. Bug reports voiced aloud in her tired voice at 3 a.m. She found her Git commits, archived email threads, the patent clause from legal 2 years ago promising profit share under section 14.3b. She checked again in the current contract file. Gone.no 14.3b. No acknowledgement. Just whitewashed legal tofu, discretionary credit assigned by management. As in, if we feel like it, maybe. Her laughter was soft. Almost amused. A dry breathless exhale that fogged the screen. They hadn't just erased her, they rewrote. The fine print mid-project, mid-crisis, mid-sacrifice. Alina encrypted a new drive partition. Backed up everything. Twice. Then again, every timestamp. Every wireframe. Every Slack brainstorm she ever typed. Even the CTO's passive-aggressive edit from a review call, let's not gender this, maybe say, the team's idea, instead of hers. That went into a folder labeled evidence, in caps. By 2:17 a.m., the archive was complete. Every bite of her labor locked behind 3 layers of encryption and righteous fury. She didn't sleep. She didn't cry. She ran a query.ip litigation attorney, Los Angeles, top result, 5 stars. Red blazer. Eyes like she prosecuted war crimes on lunch break. Alina dialed, the war had begun. The following morning arrived dressed in corporate casual indifference. Alina walked into the building like she hadn't spent the night building a digital war chest. Her blouse crisp, her tone light, her steps measured, like nothing had fractured. But inside, her bloodstream pulsed with a purpose colder than vengeance, reclamation. She sat at her corner desk, the one they hadn't upgraded in 3 years despite 4 rounds of funding. The same chipped edge, the same coffee ring stains. It had become a monument to overlooked loyalty. She booted her system and waited for the endless hum of startup screens. Notifications flooded in. Slack pings. Google Calendar invites. HR updates. All cheerfully pretending she didn't exist. No. Good morning. No nods. Just that suffocating silence you only hear when a system has already decided you're irrelevant. She scrolled. Buried deep in a forgotten folder was an artifact. A PDF copy of the original invention disclosure, her signature right there, dated. Timestamped, countersigned by Gregory Baines, the very CTO now taking credit during press briefings. Her throat tightened, but she stayed still. Time to validate what she already knew. She opened SharePoint. Dug through directories meant to be seen by no one outside legal. The permissions had been reset. Passwords changed. Trails buried beneath. Euphemisms. But Alina understood their naming conventions better than they did. She wasn't searching for converter drafts or invention logs. She looked for typos, mislabelings, last-minute saves at 2 a.m. by exhausted interns. She found a folder titled Q4IP Alt Archive, Internal, Do Not Delete. She smiled. Inside, scattered documentation, early versions of patent paperwork, heavily redacted PDFs. But the metadata? Intact. Her name embedded in document properties. Her initials and track changes. Even comments tagged with her handle. They'd wiped her name from the cover, but not from the bones. She copied everything. Folder by folder. Each file labeled with a new naming convention, Foundation. The digital skeleton of the Helios project was hers, and now she had the receipts. That afternoon, she met Deborah Klein for the first time in person. A sleek conference room 10 floors above the chaos. Deborah walked in like litigation was a blood sport and she was undefeated. Red blazer. Unflinching eye contact. A leather briefcase that looked like it could hold a settlement check and a severed ego. Show me, she said without pleasantries. Alina handed her the encrypted drive. Deborah plugged it in, eyes flicking across documents like a hawk auditing lies. You were lead contributor on every version, she asked. Every single one. Deborah clicked open a Slack export. Alina winced, she hadn't combed through it yet. Deborah's brow arched. Ah, here's our smoking gun. She turned the screen. A message from CFO Howard, dated 6 months ago. She's great technically but doesn't think like a strategist. Route through Ethan. He'll be grateful. And manageable. Another message, this time from Gregory. Her work ethic is insane, but the optics are better with Ethan out front. Easier sell. Deborah didn't look up. They built an entire fraud playbook with Slack receipts. Alina's lips pressed together. She wasn't surprised. Just tired. What's our angle? She asked. Patent misattribution. Breach of contract. Retaliatory erasure. The works, Deborah replied. But we begin by establishing ownership. She flipped a form forward, a provisional patent. Filed under your name. Solo inventor. Private. Undisclosed for now. Alina signed it in silence. The pen barely scratched the paper, but the signature felt like a guillotine drop. By that evening, the provisional patent had been filed. Not a whisper went out from their side. Not yet. They would let the house fill with gas before striking the match. Back at her apartment, Alina curled into her oversized sweatshirt, legs tucked under her. The email came through at 9:43 p.m. from the events coordinator. You're invited, Project Helios official rollout celebration. She stared at it for a moment. Then she clicked RSVP yes, her fingers hovered over the keyboard. One more message. One line, she sent it to Deborah, I'll cover the ticket. Wear something red. Asterisk. The days that followed passed in scripted monotony. Meetings blurred together, hallways echoed with artificial cheer. Alina floated through them like a woman in disguise. Her smiles calibrated, nods perfectly timed. She said nothing. Asked nothing. Corrected no one. Let them believe she was over it. Let them think she'd healed. Inside, she was threading the needle. Deborah called it setting the chessboard, but Alina didn't feel like a player anymore. She felt like the storm no one had checked the forecast for. The first real move came quietly. She asked Julie from events, Julie who still owed her a favor after Alina saved her wedding slideshow from Tech Meltdown, for a copy of the banquet seating chart and speech schedule. Just wanted to see where I'm sitting, she'd said. With a wink, Julie sent it without a second thought. At the top of the list, Ethan. First speech. Then the CTO. Finally, a closing toast by the CEO, scheduled for 9:05 p.m. sharp. With it came a $1,000 bottle of champagne, flown in from France. The seating diagram was meticulous, board members up front, media stage right, investors along the left wall. Alina? Table 11. Not close, not distant. But perfectly angled. Deborah's seat was listed as guest of E. Martinez. The plan was now geometry. She spent the next 2 weeks in strategic silence. She smiled at the interns, nodded at the project managers, let Ethan wave from across the hallway like they hadn't buried her alive. When asked if she'd be attending the Helios launch, she answered with a soft, wouldn't miss it. At night, she didn't sleep much. Not from anxiety, but from preparation. She rehearsed her body language, not her words. This wasn't about grand speeches. This was about timing. About turning their own spotlight into a weapon. On the night of the banquet, she dressed with surgical intent, emerald satin. Sharp shoulders. Bare neckline. Hair pulled back like an unsheathed dagger. Her heels clicked down the hallway like countdowns. The moment she stepped into the ballroom, a hush vibrated beneath the jazz ensemble. The execs noticed her immediately. The CTO stiffened. Then forced a smile. Of course you're here, he said too loudly, as though convincing himself she was harmless. The COO gave her a limp nod, swirling his champagne like it might erase her. Ethan leaned in for a hug. You look amazing, he chirped. Totally. Killing it. She thanked him like he'd complimented her for breathing. Deborah waited at table 11, a crimson sheath dress draped around her like war paint. Her name tag innocuous. Her presence invisible. For now dinner flowed. Lobster. Truffle risotto. More wine than water. Laughter echoed against gold-plated ceilings. But Alina's focus stayed locked. She studied the stage, the distance, the rhythm. Everything was aligning. At 8:14 p.m., Ethan took the mic, phones lifted. Eyes turned forward. Tonight, we celebrate the impossible becoming inevitable, he said, voice oiled and rehearsed. Project Helios isn't just a product, it's a movement. A clean energy revolution driven by grit, brilliance, and team synergy. Alina sipped her wine. Every sentence was lifted from her technical documentation. Innovative pivot. Modular integration. Failsafe core. Buzzwords she'd coined at 2 a.m. with a soldering iron and half a protein bar. Now delivered to applause by a man who'd once asked if a resistor could be wireless. The audience clapped. Investors nodded. Journalists scribbled. Alina's expression never shifted. Next came the CTO, grinning like a motivational speaker on autopilot. He used words like alignment and cross-functional harmony. He cracked a joke about caffeine and long hours. Someone chuckled. Deborah rolled her eyes, then the moment crystallized. 9:04 p.m. The MC stepped forward. And now, to honor the future of Project Helios, please welcome our CEO, Mr. Leonard Wexler. The lights dimmed, applause swelled. Wexler emerged, cufflinks gleaming, smile preloaded, a bottle of vintage champagne gripped like an Oscar. He stepped up to the mic and waited for the hush to progress. Innovation, he began, and the unstoppable spirit of our team. Then Alina leaned left, Deborah rose, the moment had the precision of a time bomb. Deborah Klein stood. Not rushed. Not dramatic. Just present. The kind of presence that empties oxygen from a room without raising its voice. She stepped away from table 11. Heels against marble. Click. 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 Each sound louder than the last. Each step turning more heads. Wexler hesitated, bottle still raised. The mic caught his breath mid-sentence. To the future, Mr. Wexler, Deborah said, loud enough to ripple across every linen-covered table. I represent Ms. Alina Martinez. Silence fell like blackout curtains. The jazz stopped. Forks froze. Someone dropped a spoon. The echo lingered. Deborah continued. Effective this morning, we've filed legal action for fraud, patent misattribution, and intellectual property theft. In parallel, we have submitted a provisional patent claim listing Ms. Martinez as the sole inventor of the Helios clean energy converter. Wexler blinked. Caught between a forced smile and an imploding ego. The bottle in his hand, $1000 of imported celebration, hung midair like a weapon too late to wield. What? He croaked. Deborah reached into her handbag and pulled a red envelope. She climbed the stage, not asking, not waiting, and handed it directly to him. The very product you're toasting tonight, she said clearly, is legally contested. All associated materials, technical schematics, launch documentation, and investor decks, are now under active review. Any use of the Helios system in its current form may be considered distribution of disputed IP. Wexler opened the envelope. With shaking fingers. His face dropped 2 shades, and then it began. Investor row, murmurs. A man in a navy suit checked his phone, thumb moving like a scalpel. A woman beside him whispered, the Origin Energy deal goes live Monday. What if they pull? Someone else, they already filed? Under her name? That's bad. The CTO looked like a ghost caught mid-lie. Ethan went pale, then red, then pale again. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Claire Donovan sank 2 inches into her seat, mouth a flat line. Wexler cleared his throat, still clinging to the bottle. This is a misunderstanding. There's protocol. Deborah didn't blink. Your protocol removed Ms. Martinez's name from every patent filing without legal basis. We have full version histories, author metadata, and archived correspondence establishing her as originator. The deletion of her authorship was neither accidental nor procedural. It was targeted. And illegal. Pop. The cork from the champagne finally burst on its own, an awkward, lonely punctuation mark. Foam frothed over Wexler's hand and dripped onto the microphone. No1 laughed. No1 clapped. The air smelled like spilled celebration and panic. Alina remained seated. She didn't speak, she didn't smirk, she just watched. Chin up. Hands folded. Eyes locked on the stage like a scientist observing combustion. The board members looked like they'd aged 10 years in 30 seconds. Phones came out. Texts were typed with frantic thumbs. One VP stood and quietly slipped out the side door across the room. Someone muttered, is this going to hit the press? Another hissed, it's probably already there. It was. Alina had made sure of it. 12 hours earlier, she'd sent a single anonymous tip to a dozen outlets. You'll want to be at the Helios banquet tonight. Major IP shakeup. Documents attached. Exclusive. She didn't attach the entire folder. Just enough, the right excerpts. The Slack thread. One version log. A screenshot of Ethan's LinkedIn post with the caption, leading innovation and staying humble lightbulb #grind time. By now, half the reporters in the room were checking their inboxes. Deborah turned from Wexler and stepped down from the stage. She didn't look back. She didn't have to. The battlefield was scorched, the mic still buzzed from champagne fizz. Wexler was soaked. The press packet in his hand now a liability. The future he'd toasted moments earlier now under legal siege still. Seated, Alina exhaled once. Deep. Even as she rose quiet. Deliberate, her heels echoed through the ballroom like a eulogy. She didn't glance at Ethan. Didn't acknowledge Claire. Walked past the CTO without blinking. Just before reaching the exit, she glanced at Deborah. A silent signal. Deborah nodded once, grabbed her bag, and followed. They left through the service corridor, past swinging kitchen doors that smelled of rosemary and regret. Outside, the night crackled with camera flashes and static-laced murmurs. 3 media vans already lined the curb. Reporters scrambled out like sharks smelling fresh blood. In chlorinated water. Phones pointed. Microphones raised. Voices overlapped. Ms. Martinez, did they steal your patent? Is Origin pulling out? Was the Helios breakthrough yours from the start? Alina didn't pause. Didn't smile. Didn't blink. She walked toward the waiting car like the hero of a silent film, expression unreadable, posture regal. Eyes forward. Deborah trailed beside her, calm as a nuclear detonation in slow motion. They slid into the back seat just before a new wave of reporters could catch up. The door closed, muting the chaos like someone pressed pause on the world inside. Quiet, streetlights streaked across the windows like slashes of light through velvet. Deborah looked over, one brow raised. That went better than expected. Alina didn't answer right away. She stared ahead, watching the city rearrange itself behind glass. Eventually, she spoke. They didn't see it coming. No, Deborah said, smoothing a wrinkle in her crimson dress. They really didn't. By Monday, the ripple had become a tsunami. The company's stock dropped 11% before lunch. By Wednesday, it cratered 22%. Investors pulled out of meetings. Journalists published timelines. News sites ran side-by-side screenshots of patent filings, before and after edits. One leaked Slack screenshot, in particular, made the rounds. She won't fight. Trust me. Let Ethan take point. It was retweeted 60,000 times in 24 hours. PR issued a 2-sentence statement. We are currently reviewing the legal claim. The product is under internal evaluation. Internally, the company scrambled like a beehive on fire. Executives stopped replying to emails. Promotions froze. HR launched a clarity audit, which in corporate speak meant figure out who left the door unlocked while the wolves came in. Legal initiated internal interviews. CTO Gregory Baines vanished from Slack. Ethan canceled a podcast appearance. Claire made her Instagram private. The silence wasn't strategic. It was structural collapse. On Friday, Alina's phone rang. Unknown number. She let it go to voicemail. The message came through, tight and brittle. Ms. Martinez, this is Diana. From the board's legal team. We'd like to open a line of discussion, quietly. We believe there's a path to resolution that serves everyone's interests. Please call me back at your earliest convenience. She didn't. Instead, she stared out the window of her apartment. Wrapped in a hoodie too big, tea-long cold, knees drawn to her chest like someone watching the tides retreat from a battlefield, the TV played some ambient fireplace loop. She wasn't smiling. Wasn't crying. Just breathing, not the sharp inhale of a plan unfolding, not the shallow gasp of revenge accomplished, just breath, slow, full, the kind that finally empties the pressure from inside your ribs and leaves space for peace. She didn't need to reply. Not yet. Let them stew, let them pull apart meeting notes, review Slack archives, run finger-pointing drills in rooms she'd once been excluded from. She wasn't rushing the next move, she was savoring the stillness. Let them rewrite the history. She'd already published the ending, and this time, it was copyrighted. It took less than a week for their glass empire to begin fracturing in slow, agonizing silence. Internal sources leaked to the press. Project Helios was placed on indefinite hold pending review of IP validity. Whispers became headlines. Shareholders demanded emergency meetings. A leaked investor email read simply, if this patent doesn't hold, the tech doesn't exist. But Alina didn't watch the news. She already knew the ending. Instead, she turned inward. Deep cleaned her apartment. Reorganized code snippets she hadn't touched in years. Created folders labeled next. She lit no cigars. Toasted no wins. There was no need. The real victory wasn't in their collapse. It was in her stillness. They, on the other hand, weren't still. They panicked. Point one. By one, they came undone. Ethan tried to hold a clarifying live stream. He stuttered through buzzwords for 7 minutes before abruptly ending it when someone in the comments posted the full provisional patent filing under Alina's name. Claire released a statement through PR. I was not involved in the technical development and defer all credit to the engineering team. Her tone read like she'd just discovered fire could burn her too. Gregory was nowhere. His LinkedIn went dark. Internal memos suggested he'd been placed on leave pending resolution. No one missed him. Wexler, stripped of applause and vintage champagne, doubled down, until Deborah Klein served a second notice, formal deposition. Request, Federal Patent Board. That's when the second voicemail came. Alina, this is Diana again. We're willing to make things right. Recognition. Restitution. If you're open to it, the board would like to extend an offer. We understand what happened. We want to move forward. Alina played the message twice. Then deleted it. The next morning, a different message arrived, this time, not from legal.it was from Julie, the events coordinator. Voice low, almost embarrassed. I just wanted to say thank you. For not letting them get away with it. We all saw it. We just didn't think we could do anything. But you did. And now, they'll have to remember that. Alina sat still for a long while after that, eyes closed. Hands folded, not because it changed anything, but because someone else had felt it. That mattered more than applause. 2 weeks later, Deborah called. They're offering 7 figures, she said flatly. a formal public correction, retroactive authorship, and a strategic advisory role with full creative license and board access. And? Alina asked, and Deborah exhaled, they're scared. You could ask for anything. Alina didn't answer right away, she looked around her apartment. It was quiet, but alive. Books stacked sideways. Notebooks open. Ideas scribbled. Without censors. Her desk was finally hers. Let's counter, she said. I'll take the credit. I'll take the payout. Pause, but I won't work for them. Deborah smiled, even through the phone. Now you're thinking like a strategist. Weeks passed, the headlines shifted. Arigen dropped the acquisition. Wexler stepped down. Ethan took a sabbatical to reflect. Gregory resigned before his deposition. HR launched a culture review, but no one read the report. Helios faded, but Alina, she built something else, not another startup. Not another prototype, she built her own rules, she registered her consultancy under her own name. Bought a small office space. Filled it with light, plants, and whiteboards. She didn't chase investors. They came to her. Quietly. Discreetly. Ready to pay. No co-founders.no strategic face. Just her,